How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another podcast of All Out Athletes. I am Coach D, and we have studied athletes and champions from all over the world to find out what are the secrets to being a champion. And once again, this week, we have the great motivational speaker and one of the top professors in sports psychology who has also written books for college if you had to have fun without failing out. And if you want to win tomorrow, read this book tonight. So once again, thank you, Dr. Gilbert, for coming on our podcast. How you doing?
Oh, good.
If you could ask one question, I have a question for you. If you could ask one question to an athlete, if you could ask them one question that would determine how successful they're going to be, what would it be?
What do you think the question is? If you could ask an athlete one question, what would the question be?
If I could ask a champion, what is
a regular athlete, not a champion?
Oh, just a regular athlete of how successful they're going to be. What would I ask them?
Right, you could ask them right before practice, right before a game, right before a tournament. What's the one question?
Is it worth it? Is it worth all the effort?
Good question.
Is it worth everything you've ever gone through to get where you are right now?
That's a good question, but it's not my question.
What's your question? What would you ask them?
Let me go ahead, turn around, okay? And what's right behind you? So the question is, are you going to go all out or are you going to hold back? That is the question. Are you going to give a full effort or are you going to give a partial effort? Are you going to do that in practice every single day? Are you going to do that in competition? We're not going to ask you to win or lose. We say, are you going to give a full effort? If you could give a full effort all the time, you are going to be a winner eventually. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. And any place, you could go to a Broadway show where they have a chorus line of 32 people, and there's one person going all out, and the other 31 aren't. You know what I do in school. First day of class, I said, how many of you were in school last year? And everybody puts their hand up. And then I say, how many of you were into school last year? And they look at me like I'm an idiot. What do you mean? In and into, it's the same thing. No, it isn't. In and into are not the same thing. Are you in a job or into a job? In a relationship or into a relationship? Are you in a sport or into a sport? See, when you're into it, you're going all out. When you're in it, you're just hanging out. So in school, when you're in school, you mean you're enrolled. When you're into school, you mean you're involved. So you got to be into it. As we talked about last time, Coach D and I are at war against average. We don't want you to be in. Why would you want to be in something when so suppose it's a few years from now and you have kids. And are you going to brag about your kids? Oh, I got an average kid. He's just in school. He's not going to get Oh, you should see him in T-ball. I mean, everybody's better than him. I mean, he gets 3 swings and he misses after the first one. He goes back to the bench. He said, no, go ahead. Nah, I've had enough. No, nobody that makes the history books is in it. They're into it. You have to be into it.
And it's funny because once you make that team, right, once you find out what college you go to, no one says, I can't wait to get there so I can be an average athlete and win the average award. Nobody. Yeah. Nobody says in high school, I can't wait to get to the banquet so they can give me the average award. It doesn't happen, but everybody has that energy and excitement at the beginning. Yeah. They're so excited. But then when they get there and after a couple weeks and after, it's kind of like the first day of class. Everybody, it's kind of like kindergarten and first grade. They're totally into every answer. They're raising their hand, they're jumping up and down. And then when it gets to 5th grade, their hand goes up, but it's not with the same energy. And then maybe 7th or 8th grade, it kind of get about maybe above the head. And then when you get to high school, you just throw your hand up and you're like, yeah, I got the answer right here. I've been doing this for 8 years. But we lose that enthusiasm that we first had when we first get to a team, when we first get to high school, that new thing, and we forget how exciting it was, and we kind of drift away. We drift away from that excitement, and that stops us from going all out.
So let me ask you, not you, Coach D, but you, whoever's watching this, think back the last class you went to, or the last practice you attended, or the last game you were involved in. Were you a period or an exclamation point? A period is, just an exclamation point. There's energy in an exclamation point. There's no energy in a period. There's a little energy in a question mark. but there's a lot of energy in a exclamation. So you got to be an exclamation point. You got to be into it. I mean, now, do you have to be into everything 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for your whole life? No, no. I mean,
You'd be burnt. It's impossible.
you know, I mean, if you're a high school gymnast and you on the team and you're on the gymnastics club and you have a strength coach and all that, and one day you go play miniature golf with your family, you don't have to be intimate. That's just fun, you know. But if you are really into chemistry, be into chemistry. If you're really into gymnastics, be into gymnastics. So the problem is most people say they're into it, but they act in it, you know?
Right.
If you're into it, be into it.
Yeah, they say, I want to be the best. I want to be a champion. But if you look at them, they don't train like a champion. They train like the innits. They don't train like the intos. You know, it's funny because Lou Holtz, right, the great Lou Holtz, the football coach from Notre Dame, he said in life, there's dropouts, cop-outs, holdouts, and then there's all-outs. He said the dropouts give up when things get difficult. The cop-outs always have an excuse. It's always somebody else's fault. And the holdouts are always holding back because they're in fear. They're scared to take that risk, to take that chance, to go all out. They're afraid to fail in front of other people. And all-outs, you can't make it tough enough for me to complain or quit. And you know, that's it. And you can decide. You make that decision every time you go out there and train every single day. You make that decision. If you're going to be a dropout, all out, cop out, hold out, that's up to you. When there's no coach around, because sometimes it's easier when you have that coach and he's driving you forward and you have passion. But when you're all alone, do you have that drive to push yourself forward? And that's what had to turn on to become that all-out athlete. We've all been in those situations in any aspect of our lives where it's time to turn up. It's time to energize. It's time to go forward. That we're sick of getting average results over and over again, but our training stays here. We want to be up here. Everything we want the energy, intensity. We want to go all out. But then when I watch athletes train and there's no coach around, their actions are down here. And can they raise their actions to meet what they want, to meet their aspirations, to be that player they've been wanting to be for the last 5 or 6 years when they first got to high school, when they first got to college, and they were excited. I'm going to show everybody. And then they kind of just now fit in. They train, but it's not extreme, right? They're not doing the all-out things that they need to do to be the player they want to be. And that's okay. I tell athletes, if you don't want to go all out, that's okay. But either, you know, increase your actions to meet the goals and aspirations that you want or lower your goals and bring them down. Just be that C player. If you want a C in school, be happy with it. When you get that C, be excited. I'm average. I get my C. But I don't think we want more. So you gotta either raise up your actions or lower your expectations, or otherwise it's just a lie, right? We're just hoping to get an A. We're just hoping to make the team, and then there's that huge disappointment, right? When we don't go all out. You know the Pat Summitt. Remember when Pat Summitt's kid didn't make the basketball team? Remember that one, Doc?
Yeah.
You want to tell that story? You know that one?
Tell it. So
Pat Summitt's kid didn't make the high school freshman basketball team, and you know, Pat Summitt was a basketball coach for Tennessee. Great basketball coach, one of the great college basketball coaches of all time. And her kid didn't make the team. Now, she's Pat Summitt. Now, if you're the coach and you don't take Pat Summitt's kid, I mean, you take your kid, she'll come do drills, do things, speak at your banquet. She'll probably do what you have Pat Summitt right here. And the coach did not take her kid. So Pat Summitt comes home, and her kid's upstairs crying, and Pat Summitt walks in the room and hugs her kid just like a mother would, kisses her kid, and looks at the 2 basketballs in the corner of the room. And then looks back at her kid and said, "Are you crying because you didn't make the team, or are you crying because you didn't work hard enough to make the team?" She said, "You see those 2 basketballs in the corner? When you wear them out, they won't deny you a spot." And she said she kissed her kid on the forehead and walked away and just left her kid in the room. And I think that's the biggest, that That's the biggest thing between holding back or going all out. We think we're going all out. We think we're doing our best. And there's always that one more level you can bump it up to. There's always more you can do. And I think that we do more. There's a lot of athletes, they train hard. I have athletes, they train hard. They're hard trainers, but they won't go to that next level because they're comfortable in their training. They're happy right where they are. I'm doing good. I'm okay. And they continue to think about how good they were to how good they are right now. But they don't think about how great they could be 2 weeks from now, a month from now, 3 months from now. They're very happy with where they were when they were a kid to where they are now, and they just stay there. There's no reason for me to go up. Why not? How about that player that beat you during the season? That should be in your mind every day. I would take that with you, that when you face, you don't want to beat players that you can beat. You want to beat players that nobody thinks you can beat, players that are better than you, but they don't train as hard as you do. Those are the players. That's the win you want, the win that nobody expects you to win, and that only comes from the underdog. If the underdog doesn't go all out, they can't win. There's no underdog that held back and won. It doesn't work that way. So it's up to you. You can either hold back and be happy. If you want to hold back and be happy, I want you to fulfill what you want. If that's what you really want, then hold back and be happy. But if you want more than that, we got to get rid of our thoughts and feelings and just go. Feel the feeling. I don't feel like working out today. Work out anyway. It looks like it's going to rain today. Work out anyway. When we let our thoughts and feelings interfere with our actions, our goals come when your feelings come first, your goals come last. And again, that's okay if that's what you want. I don't want to work with athletes who tell me, they want this, but they're working down. Okay, I'm going to try and help you meet your goals and your aspirations. I'm trying to push you there. But if it's always a constant fight, then maybe you're not willing to put in the work. And again, then lower your goals. It's okay. Satisfied with that. And you don't have to work hard to make it to the NBA. That doesn't have to be your goal. It could be, I just want to be the best right now. Later will take care of itself. But that's up to you. That's up to the energy and focus that you bring. Do you bring that all-out energy and do everything you do looks extreme? If I watched you train or practice, what does it look like? If me and Dr. Gilbert showed up, what does it look like? Are you the most focused, energized? You're going all out, whether you run to the water fountain and run back, everything about you screams champion to the world. Is that you? That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. You can learn from champions in any sport. But, Tom Brady, no one averaged their way to success. They work so hard, and it's a lonely road sometimes.
Good. Let me finish with this. Once Michael Jordan was asked, do you know who the next Michael Jordan's going to be? He said, yeah, well, I don't know exactly, but I know who he is. He said, one day, some kid, after this huge snowfall in New York or Boston or Chicago or Detroit, the next morning, he's out there shoveling off the court so he could take his shots. So that's the next Michael Jordan. So here's your game plan right now. We gave you a lot of information here, but right now on your team, you should be the hardest working person on your team. In your class, you should be the hardest working person in your class. So right now, if you're taking English, you should be putting in more time in English. You should be doing more reading in English. You should be seeing the teacher more after class and before class than anybody else. And as Coach D said, if you're not willing to do that, don't be upset. Don't be upset when you're not the biggest mistake you can make is when you put in C effort and you expect A results. You're out of touch. You should put in A+ effort and get an A result. So that's it from me.
Once again, thanks a lot, Dr. Gilbert. And again, my favorite quote is the most powerful 2-letter words. If it is to be, it is up to me. If it is to be, it is up to me. And it's all up to you. Good luck, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Doc. Hey, Coach D here. Thanks for joining us this week. And on next week's podcast, we're going to talk about one of the most important things you need to do after you attain that skill that will determine how great you're going to be. Yes, there is one thing that will determine that, and we'll talk about that next week. And if you need a little bit more help to be that all-out athlete and go all out, just join us for Monday Morning Champion. Every Monday morning, I give a locker room speech to ignite your energy and enthusiasm to help you sustain it throughout your training. So join us for that. And if there's something you'd like us to talk about on this podcast, or you'd like us to come and speak to your athletes, students, organizations to help ignite that fire within, just email us, alloutathletes@gmail.com. We will see you Monday morning at 8 a.m. for your Monday Morning Igniter.